child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection, okay? And that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. True. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fight CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle. I am your host, Amanda Cisco, and this is my guest, Eric. And wow, guys, what an amazing trailer. Such a great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric. What brings you to our show tonight?
Well, I'm a single father, and I got custody of my twin boys. And ever since I've had custody of my twin boys, it's just been a horror movie. And come to find out, there's a family member that works for the CPS department who's been interfering in my case.
Is that why you're concealing your identity, Eric?
Yes, fear of retaliation,
for your own
because
safety?
they're very aware of it. Yes, yeah. Oh, definitely. Because they're very
I'm
aware
so sorry
of it.
to hear that.
Been complaining. Well, this is the system that we live in. Until there are changes, then parents will do this until the end of time.
Yeah.
So I've been arrested. I've had this family member go case file. They are very aware of it. Going to the school, saying that they're the caseworkers of the boys and knowing that they're not. It's been problems after problems. And frankly, I'm tired of being arrested. I'm tired of them putting my kids in danger. And right now, my kids are back where they were put in danger. And they're very aware of it. But no one does anything about it because they're harvesting their employee.
So walk me through the beginning. What exactly happened?
Okay, well, I had a meeting at a CPS office, and as I was waiting in the waiting room, the family member of twin boys opened the door, and there was another family waiting in the waiting room with me. But when she walked in, she spoke to the other family and told them that she'll be right back. So immediately something clicked in my mind, like, well, if we're at the CPS office and she's talking about she'll be right back with them, well, she works for them. So we go in there, we have a program director, a worker, and you were labeling me as a drug addict, user, and I did the meeting. Well, the program director and the caseworker, that I need to go to court and get my kids. So a court date was made. I got custody of the kids. The judge tried to make them bring the kids to the court, but they refused. And in fact, she told him that there's not a court order that can make her do anything. So social workers go pick the kids up. And I stopped those social workers before, and I said, listen, people are not stable. We shouldn't be going to their house. Well, we go to the house where the kids at, and they pull weapons on the social workers that work for the court. And mind you, nobody got arrested for that situation.
But wait, I gotta rewind for a second. So we had three
without the kids. The next day,
I have to pause you, Eric. Did you say that the CPS worker told a judge that there's no court order that can make her go pick up the kids?
No, the mom of my twin boy said that there's no court order that's going to make her bring the kids to court. She's not going to follow their court order.
Oh, and she was she held in contempt?
Social work.
He pulled her to the side, but
I mean, well, they pulled her to the side. They didn't arrest her. They didn't do nothing to her. Just pulled her to the side. Told the bailiff to go get her. So, but the point is, they pulled weapons on state workers. No one got arrested for that.
So she knew. She knew that they were coming to the house to get the kids, and she pulled weapons on them?
She called her family before we left, while we was leaving the courtroom, and let them know we were coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled weapons on them. So I had to stand in front of these social workers because they was frightened. And so I said it's best for us to leave before, before they try to hurt us because they had weapons. And no one got arrested for that. So the next day, they called me to court, and the kids were already there. But it was so much ruckus that they had to have 3 bailiffs walk me out of the court with my kids. The social worker said I left court at 9:30, and they called CPS on me at 11:30. Now, that was 2016. They've called CPS on me almost every month and take me back and forth to court and go get a restraining order, and then start it all over again. The kids come back. I drop them off at visitation courthouse. They would take the kids. They would not bring the kids back. And the court would tell me that's a civil suit. Who wrote an order to return the kids? Then why wouldn't they punish when they refused to turn the kids? So it just kept continuously going on. So in 2018, there was an investigator that came, testified in court, that Peanut. And he testified against them that they have made 25 false calls against me. Now, it's testified in court, and on the system, if you call, it says, if you make a false report, it is a $10,000 fine and state jail time. Mm-hmm. Now, I just said that the investigator testified that they have made false calls against me, and no one's been touched. So I have a stack of documents. This right here is all part violations. The family member going to fight, and she's the boy's caseworker. And mind you, I have been arrested 3 times behind this, and no one's doing anything about it. And I don't understand that, you keep putting the kids in danger. Now my kids are right at the same place where they were in danger, and the court order says they're not supposed to be over there, but they're there, and no one does anything about it. I can't help them because they don't put a petition against me. So I can't help them.
Do you have an attorney?
There's no telling what's happening to them. No, I've been representing myself because I just couldn't afford an attorney. So that there ought to tell you how serious this situation is, because I've never went to law school, and I'm the CP of my twin boys. This would be their 4th lawyer. So for me not to be a lawyer and attain custody of my kids, that ought to let you know how bad the situation is.
Right.
And this is their fourth lawyer.
Now, when you
And
say
just
their
the
fourth lawyer,
24th,
do you mean their
just,
guardian
2
ad litem,
weeks
like the
ago.
children's own lawyer?
Excuse me?
When you say their fourth
I
lawyer, do you mean that the children have been appointed their own lawyer?
What
Or
they hire, what they do is they hire a lawyer and they pay up the little, the little front up fee, and then after the case is over with, they lawyer. So they move to another lawyer, do the same thing, pay a little fee to get them started, and then once the court is over with, they don't pay them. So half of the lawyers that they have hired doesn't
they owe
speak highly
money.
of them right now because see, they haven't been paid. So I mean, I've had caseworkers come to my house mentioning how the family member has went through my case file. They have it marked sensitive, and I have all the paperwork now that shows that same family member has made half drunk phone calls. So
Half
you
drunk
work for
phone
the
calls,
department.
Dad?
Excuse me?
Did you say half drunk phone calls?
No, she's made half of the phone calls of the when you call in the CPS. She's making the calls. She works for the department. She makes the calls. She's making up all the false allegations, and she's trying to get custody.
So tell me more about
she
this
works-
family member and their relationship to the children, and also why do you think that she's doing this?
Well, I have the paperwork that says she's the one that's making the phone calls.
Do you know why?
She's the one making allegations.
Do you know what her motive is?
They're trying to get custody.
She's trying to get custody of the children.
Because I'm the custodian. I'm the custodian parent, and they want to be the custodian parents. I mean, like I said, I have papers. They went to the school. She said she was the boy's caseworker, and as working for Child Protective Service, she cannot be in a family member's case.
Right.
You cannot go through my case file and retain conflict of interest. You cannot obtain my information going through my case file and then use my name to open up CPS cases just so you can get a CPS worker to come to your house. And then you make up the false reports on me. That ought to be a crime because that's identity theft. You're using my identity.
Now, did she use your identity to make calls about you, or did she also use your identity to make calls to other families?
Well, I use my ID if I'm the one called in to make a report on them. And by law, when someone makes a report, they have to go out and make contact with the kids.
Right.
So they would use my identity as if I'm making a report on them just so they can have a caseworker come out and then they could make up any kind of allegation that they want to make up. Which, like I say, that's still identity theft. But that could have been prevented when they caught her going through my case file. She shouldn't have been suspended. She should have been fired. Because like I mentioned, I've been arrested since then. So the only one's paying for it is me. I've never had a CPS case in my life until I got custody of my twin boys. And no one has never made a report on me except these families that it was already testified in court that they're the one making the false calls. Now, they made it to where, after that was testified in court, they made it where any that comes in is not supposed to come to my area where I live. But when coronavirus first hit, a lot of people were not at work. They were working home. So they made a false report and let it slip through because a lot of people were not there and had me arrested. And had me arrested on a paper that I got from CPS. So she went in the case file and got the paper and had me arrested. Why haven't she been charged? I don't know. But my boys have been abused. They've been sexually touched. And they're at the same spot where all this stuff happening right now. as we
I am
speak.
so
That's
sorry
where
to
they
hear
at.
that, Eric.
Well,
Mm-mm-mm.
it's nothing we can do unless the people that's in charge to make these decisions step up and do something about it.
Right.
Because
Absolutely, I agree.
they've came to but they've came to the school. Now, any parent that's looking at this, this could be you. There was an incident where they came to the school and they just happened to see just a little girl walking through the hallway, innocent, minding her business, going to school to learn. They told my twin boys to jump on this little girl so they can have a bad report at school and they can try to take it to court. And
Who
they
told
did
them to do this? Who told them?
it. The family member and the mom. And they did it. Now, if they would have very hardly injured that little girl really bad, I would have been the one charged with that because I'm the one that has. But in the first place, they should have done something to them for telling them to do that. That could have been anyone's child.
Right.
Now, recently, not too long ago, they told my kids to commit suicide just so they can get custody. And if I tell you one of my boys just tried to commit suicide, then why haven't these people been arrested? And how can you hire somebody to work for Child Protective Service that the child commits suicide, they can get custody?
That is sick.
What is she doing working for CPS? Sickening. And what is she doing working for CPS around other people's children? And you do that to your own children. So I mean, it's just been an uphill battle. It makes you not want to be involved in this because it's to a point where your home is your private spot. And every other month, when you have people walking in and out your house, want to come search your room, search your well, where's your privacy at? And if you've already said that they're making false calls, then why haven't you done anything about it? So
now,
I mean,
my take on that is, I agree with everything that you're saying, but this is something that I learned on my own journey with CPS, is that you can't, expect the law to act on its own accord. You have to be the one sometimes to get that ball rolling. It seems a little bit counter, intuitive, but unless someone brings that into criminal court, I mean, our courts are overwhelmed, and not to be the devil's advocate, but if you're representing yourself, and I'm not an attorney, disclosure, everyone, I'm not a licensed attorney. I do start law school next year. I have been studying and reading the law for a few years now, but I am not giving legal advice. I do, however, advocate for everyone's right to legal education. Something that I did learn, Eric, on my journey, and I can give you my personal story, not my advice, but just share my personal story, is that I had to learn how to file motions through the court. And when I filed a motion, I had to go set it for hearing. And that is what started the momentum of my case. Otherwise, nothing would get done. I couldn't expect the judge to do something unless, I motioned the court to have a hearing, to hear the pleading of what I wanted to be done. And that's, that's something that you'll learn as you study the law. But I want to keep hearing more about your story. So, and I'm sorry for interrupting, Eric. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a lot of things that I have a problem with is for different people, it's different strokes. Because if I would have came to court with just a little bit of marijuana in my system, I probably had no rights for them kids. But you have someone come in court with 44,986 milligrams of their system, and you still
give
them
I'm sorry, you broke
visitation.
out. Of what in their system?
Cocaine.
Ooh.
That is a big amount. That is if she did it.
Sounds lethal.
And she's around the kids now. And the paperwork that I just got, she's been having drug possession charges on her before I even got involved with her. And in fact, she's never not passed a drug test. She's always dirty, or she just refused to take it. And if a court to take a drug test, you don't, then why is she not being punished for it? But instead, you're pushing my twin boys. Now, when I got custody of my twin boys, they didn't know how to use they were 5 years old. They didn't know how to use a spoon. They used a fork. They didn't know how to tend. They didn't know how to react with children and teachers. And we fixed all that. They didn't even know why we were celebrating or ERS, because the only thing that they were used to were in and used. And now I have to start all over again because they're back where they're at right now. And the same person that molested them, I found out there was another child in their family that was molested. So it's someone in there that's molesting children, and the court put them right back over there with them. So I don't know how my boys are doing right now. I know that they had health problems, and I seen a picture of them. And if the picture that I'm looking at, their cholesterol is 216. They're only 11 years old. That is grown man cholesterol. Their blood pressure 120 when they were 8 years old. That is grown person's blood pressure. And that comes from being stressed out from where they're at, scared for their life. And that's not the way that Child Protective Service should have put my kids in that predicament, because you're supposed to protect the child. Instead, because you have an employee that works for you, it's not all about the children. It's about what y'all can do to hide what she has done. And she continuously do it. She doesn't stop. I just had another case called on me this week before court. And it just...
Has this family member who works for CPS faced any repercussions?
When are they going to punish her? She will have a chance. Well,
hey, Eric, you're breaking up a little bit.
And I wouldn't wish this on no parent in the world.
No, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
No one
Having
should have
your
to
children
live like
your
this.
flesh and blood ripped away from you is the
No
most
one
vile
child should
thing
have to
on
live like
earth.
this. Excuse me?
So this family member hasn't really faced any repercussions from this, has she? Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear you.
So she hasn't really faced any consequences legally, has she?
None. Not none. Well, I heard that she was suspended when she went to my case file, but a suspension is not fired, because if someone does call and you get their information, you just can't have any employee going in the computer getting that person's information. You can't do that because they can use it for anything.
Right.
So just suspending her was not good enough. It's not good enough. I'm sorry, it's not good enough.
This individual should be facing criminal charges.
Criminal charges.
In my humble opinion.
She should have been facing criminal. When she my son to commit suicide so she can get custody, that is putting a child in danger. She should have been arrested then. When they took kids and didn't bring the kids back home, that should have been over with. I mean, when I dropped
Eric,
my kids
I'm going to
off,
ask you a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
How can you prove these things?
I have it all in documents from her job.
So how did they find out that she told your sons to jump on that girl? How did you find out?
Because
how did anybody see it?
Well, in between, said they keep making false calls on me. So in between them making a false call, you know, the caseworkers go to the boy's school. You know, sometimes they don't tell the parents when they're going to speak with the child. They'll just go to their school.
They don't. Yep. Parents
Yeah,
are
so
the
they
last
went
to
to
know anything in a CPS case,
Okay,
especially if
so
you're on the
they
wrong
went to the
side.
school. So they went to the school, and the boys, because they got in trouble, because I think he skinned the little girl's knee up. So they got in trouble. When they talked to him, he told them who told him to do it, and they can't say they didn't tell him, because when you go to school, you have to show your ID and you have to sign in. That is policy in elementary schools. So the same day this happened is the same day that they paid a visit to the school, showed their ID, signed in, and that's when it happened. And
What do you think her motive
incident,
was
they
for
came
telling them to do this? What were
Excuse
they
me?
thinking? What do you think her motive was to tell your
so they-
sons to do this?
Well, because when I got custody of my boys, I went to every school that they used to go to, and I retrieved their school records so I could see what was going on, because a lot of things that they didn't know. And a lot of things, I mean, so the different school records had already told me, as if they get in trouble at school, they would tip over the principal's desk, and they would cry all day. They would try to call the mom to come pick the boys up. They would never get an answer. So you'll have a unruly child at school screaming and hollering while school is trying to be in service to teach other kids trying to learn. But I can't blame the boys. You only can blame the parenting. Because when they got in trouble, the first thing she should have did was drop whatever she was doing and go check on her child.
Absolutely.
Or at least have him stop hollering so other kids can learn.
Yeah.
So no one can say, how can I prove it? It's all written in paper. And what I be trying to explain to CPS is, you have to understand that I've been complaining about this for years. And then get the records, and you've already know about it, and y'all have done nothing. Well, it's like a slap in my face, feeling that you're harvesting her, and you know what she's doing. Our caseworkers come to my house and tell me that he is going through your case file. This case is a crying shame. They've called so much, and they're not supposed to disclose that. But when you have a parent working for a place, all parents are not the same. You have some parents that look at the situation as it is and know it's a crime. They know it's a crime shame. So, I mean, a lot of parents just get tired of it. And some parents are compassionate just because they do work for it. You have some that are real, and you have some that are not. You have some that do their job, and you have some that are not. So the ones that don't want to do their job and breaking the law, they need to be removed. Hey! Yeah, they need to be removed. And it's a crying shame that nothing is being done about it. As a father, if you ask me, am I worried about them? I'm very worried about them for the history of what I have in these papers that I know of. There's no telling what is going on with them boys right now.
When's the last time you had any contact with them?
I dropped them off the last day of their school year in 2018, and I haven't seen them since then. I'm the young parent.
You said since 2018 you've had no contact.
I've had no contact. And I'm a custodian parent.
Have you tried to file any pleadings in court? Have you tried to file new custody pleadings in court?
Well, we just had a court date last week, and they was dismissing the granny trying to get custody. And like I said, she's the one that works for him. So they're gonna put the boys back here, but I have a protection order on me from the parent and the grandmother. Now, what I'm trying to figure out is, if I have a protection order against me and we go into the regular court order, well, how am I supposed
Congratulations,
to drop the kids
Amber.
off to them? So how am I supposed to drop the kids off to them for visitation if I have a protection order against? Wouldn't that be breaking a protection order?
Can you say that one more time, Eric?
Well, I have a protection against me, and they want me to drop the
whatever
kids
you
off
did is so much better. I can hear you so much better. You were crystal clear there for a second.
Okay, I have a protection order against me. They're expecting me to drop kids off for visitation. Well, if I have a protection order against me, then how am I supposed to go for visitation?
Did you bring this discrepancy up in court during the trial? Did you ask the judge, Your Honor, can we address this protective order? I cannot lawfully fulfill my visitation rights with my children with this protective order in place. Like, do you know what are the terms of the protective order?
Well, if we're going back to the regular court order, it would be that I drop the kids off every other week, and they stay 3 days through the weekend. Friday, Saturday, they have to come back Sunday.
What was this newest court order for the court date last week?
Well, that they're dismissing, going back to the regular court order.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen them since 2018.
But the protective order was not addressed.
No, it wasn't.
What was in the protective order? Do you know?
I don't
Eric,
know.
do you know what the protective order says? What the terms are?
Me not to be a malbound, and no contact.
It didn't say with the exception of visitation.
No.
Mm.
No, not at all. And from what I was told, that's on record, there's a law that prohibits him from putting a protection order against me. It's been written in the ruling. But
who found this law? Where did you find it? And do you remember what it says?
No, that's what the judge said in court.
Okay.
That's what he said.
Okay.
But he still signed a protection order against me, against my kids. So either you didn't read the court order, because it showed it's not what you ruled on. And I have that too. So that's something else I'm confused on. You said you're not going to put a protection order on me, and which tells me that you didn't read your court order. And that's, as a taxpayer, that is not what we pay you for. You're supposed to read your court order.
Have you tried emailing the judge's court clerk? Sometimes you can call the courthouse and request to email the clerk of the judge. Mm-hmm. In my jurisdiction, each trial courtroom has a clerk that sits to the left. And that's the person who types up the orders and then hands it to the judge to sign, etc. And that is usually the best way to get in contact with the judge. And all you simply have to do, all one simply has to do is email the judge's clerk and just wait for a response. If you don't get a response, then, I would try to contact the court again. Have you tried that? Just to get some clarification?
But I did get the ruling from the person that does the typing. That's who I got the ruling from.
Okay.
And does the typing as you typing.
I would try to make contact with that person through, probably through email, and I'm not giving you legal advice. This is just common, this is just person-to-person advice. This has nothing to do with the law. Yes. To, send an email to that clerk and say, hey, I would like to get some clarification on the protective order that was addressed during the trial. Could you please let me know if we're going back to the old visitation order? What are we doing about this protective order?
Well, from my understanding, I went this week and she told me that we're going back to the original court order. The original,
which gives you visitation.
That's when I drop them off every Thursday, for 3 hours, and every other weekend they have them 3 days.
Oh, so you're going back to having custody, and they're going to have visitation.
Well, yeah. I mean, I drop them off every Thursday for 3 hours, and they get them every other weekdays for the weekend.
Was mom present? Was mom and her family member present at this trial?
Present when?
At the trial last week, where you guys went back to the old protective or the old
No,
custody
none of
order.
us. None of us was required to come, because they said no matter what, it's still being dismissed. So you can turn in exhibits or anything. It's going on the dismissal docket.
Interesting.
So they said no one wants to show up. So I went on my own to make sure, but they, they're doing it themselves. They
Very
didn't want
smart.
to come down. Well, I went to the court myself just to make sure. It's to the
Were
point
you
where you
able to
can't trust
stand in
anybody.
the trial?
No, there
Okay.
wasn't. They said no one to show up.
Okay.
But I want to make sure just in case, because like I said, it's been so much going on and no one's punishing or doing anything to anybody. Because, she's been interfering in my case for years. I mean, you're talking about a woman that's trying to get custody. You're talking about a woman that works for the system, that comes in your house and wants to walk to your room and open your refrigerator. And they're saying that they're taking care of the kids, but you're writing statements on how the kids are being abused and punched in the face and hit in the chest and scratched on their back with brushes so they can put bruises on them and say, I did it. You're writing all this stuff and you've been knowing about it. But
How
no
old
one's
are
doing
your
anything.
How old are your twin boys right now, Eric?
They're 11 years old now. They're 11 years
And
old.
you haven't seen them since they were 7?
Since I think they were either 7 or 8 when they left my possession.
My oldest of my 3 is 7 right now, and I haven't seen them since last summer. I can only imagine how difficult that is.
It doesn't make sense. I mean,
No.
what bothers me
It's
is
asinine.
that they know
This whole thing is fucking asinine. The whole system.
One incident, I took them for visitation. I dropped them off at the court at the visitation. They refused to bring the kids back to visitation. So instead, they took the children to the hospital. Well, they had scratched the boys' backs with the brushes. They put them in the bathtub, took a brush to their back, and put as much bruises as they tried to put. So I hunted for my kids that whole night, and I finally got a call from CPS, and CPS told me to come to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, I spoke with a caseworker, and she informed me that they already know about the marks on the boy's back because they have pictures of them before I got custody.
That just
if you had pictures before I got custody and you have pictures and they just brought the kids to the hospital and said that I put the marks on their back, why wasn't anything done about that situation? And you're telling me y'all already have pictures of when these marks were put on their back when they had them. That's making a false report. So this has been going on for a long time, and it's not going to stop until someone takes some initiative and start doing something to save children and stop talking about it.
Well,
there
are people who have taken action. There have been politicians. There was a 2-term Georgia state senator, God bless her, Nancy Schaefer. She was murdered along with her husband. It was framed by the government as a murder-suicide. There have been several other politicians who have tried to stand up. Oh, they're actually my dear friend today alerted me of a news article in California today. And a private attorney was found dead for fighting a particularly ugly CPS case. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were suing the state. They were in the process of suing the state for this awful case. And this attorney was found dead in their home. There are people who are trying to make a difference and take down this horrible organization, and they are being murdered. Do you know that the Department of Health and Human Services, who runs CPS and DCFS, is run by the federal government. It's not, city to city or state to state. The overall federal Department of Health and Human Services is run by the government. Do you know what their annual budget is?
I can only imagine.
$80 billion a year. 80.
Wow.
$80 billion a year. Now, Vincent used to say on the show, if you started counting to 1 billion right now, you wouldn't finish before the end of your lifetime. Multiply that by 80. Of course they're killing people. Of course they are killing people who are standing up against
Well, they don't
this.
want that money to be taken. Yeah, they don't
Did
want
you know that
money to be taken.
pedophilia is an integral part of our government, that it's existed for hundreds, thousands of years?
Wow. Well, I just went and got copies of mine. And if you can see these color tablets that I have here.
Yes.
I had to take these off because I had to get copies made.
Right.
And if you can see any tabs that are on this, these are all violations that I read in these case files. And this is not all of them. But these are all violations, interference from the family member. As you can see, this is a lot of color tabs. These are on different sheets of the paper. This is what I found. But I can't say I found it because these are their papers. They wrote these violations. So no one can say, and I encourage people that, I know, well, it's always best to get a lawyer. That's the number one thing. But always try to get your own paperwork. Because one thing that someone can tell you is that paperwork doesn't exist.
You should always be getting copies of all paperwork that, and anytime that you have a court date, you must have a copy of everything that everyone else has a copy of, including evidence that's being presented. They have to give you that evidence before they can present it onto the record. You should have copies of everything that they're trying to show in court as well. Those are the federal rules of civil procedure.
Well, the papers I showed you, no one can tell me that there's no violations in these papers because, see, I've already got them.
Eric,
so no one
have
can
you
say
heard
those
of?
papers doesn't exist.
I want to ask you a question. Have you heard of a term called affirmative defenses?
No, ma'am.
Okay. For example, we'll use your story. Okay, not legal advice, guys. Full disclosure. So if they were being abused when they were in the mother's care and it was trying to be framed on you, someone could say there is an affirmative defense of impossibility. There are many, many, many affirmative defenses. For example, let's say you couldn't make it to court because there was a tornado that ripped across your driveway and destroyed your car. You could use the affirmative defense of not just impossibility, but an act of God. I mean, there are many. That's definitely something that I would suggest perhaps looking into. When there are all kinds of false accusations being made against someone, affirmative defenses are something that would be really good to become familiar with. It is a defense that can be used in court to prove that whatever is being, alleged about you, it couldn't be true due to this affirmative defense.
Okay.
And there are always elements that go along with proving an affirmative defense. You have to meet certain requirements. There are certain things that you need to prove for that affirmative defense to apply to your case. So, if you're representing yourself, definitely Google's your best friend. Definitely look into that. Read up on affirmative defenses and the different types. Another thing that you might be interested in studying is tort law. Torts are wrongdoings against others. Another thing to consider are causes of action. There's a duty. We all have a duty. Everybody has a duty. Those duties vary. When you breach that duty and it causes damages, that creates a cause of action, aka the right to sue in court.
Okay.
So, if I commend you for, being so brave and taking it in your hands to represent yourself. So it is really important that you arm yourself with the knowledge of the law, not just, general law, but also be very, very, very familiar with your laws in your jurisdiction, not just your state, but your city. Your courthouse will have its own set of rules. There are federal rules of evidence. There are federal rules of civil procedure. There are going to be, Virginia has its own constitution, separate from the United States Constitution. Your state may have that too. Be familiar with juvenile law, especially ones that apply to your case. In my jurisdiction, it's called the Code of Virginia. They're statutory laws. So, and I've read so many of them. Just reading it. It's not that difficult to understand. And if you have a question about it, you can always Google it. Google is your best friend. It takes like 5 seconds to look something up on Wikipedia. And also
a lot of stuff that I've learned is because of what they put me through,
Oh yeah, same. And I cannot wait to get my bar license and fight in federal court. I can't wait. I look forward to it. It has become my passion, what I eat, sleep, and breathe. And the law is a beautiful thing. It's the people who practice the law who make it corrupt.
Yes. And what say that someone else is corrupt, and they're the corruptest one more than anybody. Like my incident, right? What I'm going through, this person should be in federal jail because she's using a state agency to do her malicious dirt. And it's not about the children. It's about what she thinks she can win and get away with. And that has nothing to do with the safety of a child. And I don't care what kind of parent you claim to be or want to be. You do not tell a child to commit suicide so you can get custody.
Now,
you don't do that.
Eric, this may be a little forward, but is it okay if I ask you to go a little bit more into that? What happened?
Well, they went to the school. Like I said, they go to the school where the kids are at school vulnerable by themselves. They don't have me there to protect them. So they're trying to get custody. So if the child goes to school, when we're at school, and go tell the principal or the counselor that I killed myself, and they would make him say that he's happy at his father's house. Okay, but once the principal explained to him what suicide means, he immediately told him who told him to say that, because they want to get custody. He said the mom and the granny told me to say that. Told him to say, tell the school that he wants to kill himself, try to commit suicide. So he didn't know what suicide was. So talking to the counselor and the principal, they explained to him what suicide means. He immediately told him, "No, I'm happy. I'm happy at my dad's house. I don't want to commit suicide." He didn't know what it meant. He didn't know what it meant.
Oh, wow.
But they just wanted him to say it so it can cause commotion at school, and then they can come get a report from the school that the boy said that, which is not true. He didn't even know what it was. And when they immediately explained to him what it was, then he immediately told him, no, he's happy. He don't want to do that to himself. But my point is, this is a supposed to be parent that told their child to do this, so they can take any kind of paperwork that they can retrieve from the school, like I was doing. By the way, I think I'm their teacher. They try to follow my lead. Everything that I do, they go right behind me and go with their self. So I always say that I'm their teacher, because you look what I do and hire a lawyer, and then you turn around and go try to do what I do.
Now, Eric, what would you like to see happen on your case?
Well, I explained to the court a long time ago when they were abusing the boys. When I pick them up, they have black eyes. Or if I pick them up, they have skin missing off their body. It's always an excuse I don't know how someone can bump into a table and have 2 black eyes, unless he fell 2 times, which I don't believe that.
I don't understand how a parent could put hands on their child. It makes me sick. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't understand that with the evidence. This is not something that was told. These pictures were showed to their attorney. What the attorney went and told the officer of the court, but the officer of the court made me go show them they seen the pictures. But this is not the only time. Every time I pick them up, they have bruises on their back. They have black eyes. They go to school and tell their principal that their mom hit them in the face 3 times. They don't want to go to her house. If they go back, they're going to kick her if she hit them again. A child didn't have to live like that.
No, you're absolutely right.
Everything that I'm saying is documented by people that went to school to do their job, to be a principal, to be a counselor, to be a caseworker. Mm-hmm. So everything that I'm saying, I'm getting from reports. I'm not just making this up. This is stuff that I'm reading. A lot of stuff that I didn't even know about. That I'm just not finding out about. And so what are they going through now?
I can't imagine.
When I take them home from this.
That brings me to my next
can only
question.
Imagine.
Well, Eric, we live in the digital age now. There is a good chance that your kids might see this video one day. If your kids were watching this video, what would you want them to know? What would you like to say to them?
That they know Daddy loves them, and he's always tried to keep them safe. But you have to follow the law. And by them putting a protection order against me, if I break a protection order, then I'm not showing them how to live as an honest person. Sometimes people make rational decisions that they're not aware of, but you have to follow the law. I just hope you're safe. I taught you well when you were with me. And all I can say is hold on and we will get this stuff situated. And sometimes you can love a person, but if they're doing harm to you, you just have to let them go for a while until they find themselves. And we lived the right way around here. And they were on the right path. And I'm sorry that they had to go back to that situation, but what can I do? It's out of my hands.
But you've received some good news recently that we don't want to talk about yet. But Dad's been fighting pretty hard. Is that right?
Yeah,
You've been fighting real hard.
I haven't been sitting down because I don't believe in sitting down. That's why I say I know that when you go to court, you have to have evidence subpoenaed. But that's the reason why I go get my own papers, because I can send whoever needs to subpoena the papers to go get those papers. So no one can tell me that those papers doesn't exist. So I can, here, go get this paper, page such and such, date such and such. No one can say, well, no, that paper doesn't exist. Okay, well, how does it? I got it. So I'm always prepared. And always use your resources. There's always a resource that you can reach out to. Better believe that everyone has a boss or have someone that's over them. If the one that's over them is not doing what you're looking for, we'll go to their boss. If their boss not doing anything, we'll go to their boss. If you have to contact a senator, a Congress, do your research, reach out to your resources. That's what they're there for. That's what we elect them for. And believe me, you will be surprised of some of the people that you can get in contact with that will look into your problem. Now, I'm going through it right now, but I could promise you the resources that I reached out to, the person that works for this department is going to wish that she abided by the law. And
let's hope so.
Save a child.
Let's definitely hope so. Well, Eric, we are reaching the end of our show. Is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know?
Well, I would like the viewers to know if you're going through what I'm going through, yours might be a little more worse than mine. Don't give up because your kids depend on it. Fight like it's your life. because it is your life. Never give up. Use your resources and fight. And you will see you will have a difference. Never give up. Never. That's all I can say. Do not give up.
That was
Continue to
very well
fight.
said. Hear, hear. Well, Eric, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And everyone, if you have not seen, please go check out Failure to Protect. If I can get my hands on the link, I will post it for everybody to see. And Eric, we would love to have you back on soon to give us an update. And in the meantime, let's you and I stay in touch over the platform we've been messaging on. I want to hear how everything's going. I want to see, I want to hear about how everything plays out, if that's all right.
Okay, I would definitely appreciate that.
Okay, of course.
Thank you for giving me the platform.
Of course, anytime. And I look forward to having you back on again.
Okay, and
I am so sorry for what you're going through, but like you said, be strong, don't give up, and don't forget, you've got some homework to do. Look up affirmative defenses. Look up something called a preservation letter. Look up discovery. There are 5 discovery tools you could use. You can see it in the last episode I did last. Actually, I think I got pulled. Okay, so we've got about a few more minutes, guys. Quick story time. There are 5 discovery tools that are so important to know. Discovery tools is how you get evidence before trial. Okay, you've got request for admissions. That's discovery tool number 1. It's basically, something you serve on another party saying, isn't it true that, blah, 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 or admit that, blah, blah, blah. Then you have request for production. You can request a production of documents, and you can request production of things. You can file a request for production to inspect someone's property. You can file a request for production to inspect an object. You can file a request for production of documents. And that's where the preservation letter comes in. Sometimes you have to send a preservation letter to prevent evidence from being destroyed. Otherwise, a wrongful party can and will try to destroy that evidence. You have interrogatories, which are basically written questions. Most states have a limit on the number of questions that you can ask. I believe in my jurisdiction, it's 30. And then when they answer those, you can ask a little bit more, but we don't want it to be overly burdensome. So we've got requests for admissions, requests for productions, we've got interrogatories, and we've got depositions. Depositions are kind of like, when you put somebody on the stand and you're asking them questions. Well, a deposition is a discovery tool where you can, and this is, again, guys, going to court is very expensive. It is very, very costly. So depositions are not cheap. You have to have a court reporter there. Oftentimes you have to have a police officer there. You've got to have the party and their lawyer there. Their lawyer will object to a lot of the questions that you ask. So you have to word them very carefully. So a deposition is basically where you have a meeting with the opposing party and you ask them questions as though they were sitting on the stand. And then lastly, you have subpoenas. That is the last and least used discovery tool. You can subpoena information via subpoena justice tecum. You can use a Freedom of Information Act request, FOIA request for short. I've even heard, and there's been some debate about this among my friends and colleagues, but I've even heard of somebody doing a subpoena justice tecum to bring a baby to court. And she said, well, I'm glad I did because that baby had an overflowing diaper, a rancid bottle in his mouth. So let's be glad that was signed off by a judge. You can subpoena people. So subpoenas are another discovery tool that, often gets overlooked. So look into that. And you, my friend, as a citizen of the United States, have the right to use any of these discovery tools on the parties in your case. You can serve them with these things. You also have the right to file motions in court. I recently filed a motion in limine, which is a motion to include evidence that was being excluded and witnesses' testimony that were being excluded. You can also use that motion to exclude certain testimony and witnesses by the other party. But you have to have your reasons. You have to meet those elements. I filed a motion to reinstate my visitation. Unfortunately, was denied. I've appealed the case. But we have the right to do those. And remember, when you file a motion, you have to serve all parties on the case. And you have to serve, you have to file a copy of that with the court and then set it for hearing. In my jurisdiction, I have to, include it with a scheduling order. But some good things to look into. You have to arm yourself with knowledge. Knowledge is the most powerful thing other than love. Love for your children is probably the most powerful force in this universe. Second to that is knowledge. So knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, Eric. But we have reached the end of our night tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I will see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 10 p.m. for me Eastern Time. And you're Central Time, Eric, correct? You're 1 hour behind. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Eric. And I look forward to hearing from you soon.
I will keep in contact. Everyone fight. Never
yes,
stop fighting.
We are not going to stop fighting. You have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.